So Aristotle tells us that being happy means living well, and living well means living virtuously. But there are two problems here. First, we have to figure out what virtue is. What is the right thing to do in any given situation? Secondly, how do we do the virtuous thing? Because honestly, being virtuous is hard. Well, it turns out being virtuous is going to take practice. We're going to have to do the right thing over and over again, practicing and practicing until it becomes a habit. Now remember, Aristotle believes we can work out rationally in any given situation what it is we ought to do. Aristotle believes we can deliberate about our actions. We can think about things so that our actions lead to a good outcome and make us happy. Happiness is, above all, the good we seek over all other goods. Everything we do, according to Aristotle, we do in order to be happy. Now, in virtually all cases, Aristotle says, we can do things well or we can do them badly. And we can do things badly in two ways. We can either do them too much or too little. We can fail by excess or we can fail by deficiency. So think about bravery or courage. Let's just imagine, for example, that someone is making fun of one of our friends, teasing them. Now we could respond to this in different ways. We could say nothing. We could run away. Alternatively, we could go totally bananas, grab a baseball bat, and attack the person who's making fun of our friend. In both cases, that's the wrong thing to do, but it's the wrong thing to do in different ways. To say nothing or to flee would be not doing enough. And to attack the obnoxious person with the baseball bat is to do too much. A third option might just be to stand up to the person who's saying these mean things. That's probably the right thing to do. This is what Aristotle calls the mean. It's finding the intermediate, the appropriate response, the appropriate reaction or action in any given situation. Aristotle will come back to this phrasing, this peculiar phrasing, repeatedly, over and over again. That finding the mean means doing the right thing in the right way, at the right time, to the right person. And you can get any one of those things wrong. You can make mistakes in lots of different ways. Let's just say you want to be generous. Generosity is a virtue. Well, you could give too little money, or you could give too much money, or you could give to the wrong people. Generosity might be the wrong thing in particular situations. So let's think of an example. Let's say your friend wants to borrow some money. And maybe if you're just buying a coffee or buying lunch, you wouldn't put much thought into this at all. But let's say it's a little more money. Well, you can deliberate about this. Should your answer be yes or no? What decision promotes happiness for you and for your friend? First, you might think, do you have the money to give? Are you in a position to be generous? Because if you are generous and you're not in a position to be generous, you might do harm to yourself and make yourself unhappy. But even if you do have the money, the question remains complicated. You might think, for example, will this money help my friend? Is my friend in need of help? Or are they the kind of person who's bad with money? Is your friend the sort of person who's habitually bad at repaying their debts? And if that's the case, lending that person more money so they can incur more debt might actually make that person worse. So you might have lots of friends who have money troubles, but the way you help those friends might be different. This is why Aristotle says finding the mean is hard. It's like trying to hit a moving target. And this is complicated, but you can see through these examples that it's also just intuitively true. Different situations are going to call for different actions, different responses. Now remember, Aristotle isn't just saying you should do this or you ought to do this. He's saying this is what you do all the time. This is how you think. You deliberate about what you ought to do in any given situation, and you think about all these variables. How much should I study in order to get the grade I want? How many pieces of pizza should I eat? What's the best time to have that hard conversation with my friend? This is just how we think about things. And Aristotle says we can do this, we can deliberate well or badly. And when we do it well, we hit our target. We hit the mean. And when we do it badly, we end up acting viciously, not virtuously. Complicating matters even more, Aristotle says that different people will find acting virtuously difficult in different ways. So for example, I love potato chips. They are delicious. When I buy potato chips, I buy the family-sized bag and I eat them myself. I don't share them with my family. I am intemperate when it comes to potato chips. I don't have the necessary moderation. It's hard for me. Different people will struggle with different virtues and vices. Aristotle recognizes this. Some people are going to be hot-tempered or impulsive. Other people are going to be shy or anxious, and they are going to struggle with different actions. Some virtues may come easily to us, other virtues will not. But how do we get better at being virtuous, Aristotle? Well, we develop good habits. We have to habituate ourselves to virtuous action. Aristotle likens this to learning to play a musical instrument. He says, you learn to play the harp by playing the harp. You may play guitar or piano. How did you learn to play guitar or piano? You sat down and you started playing the guitar. You started playing the piano. Aristotle says virtue works the same way. If you want to be courageous, start being courageous. If you want to be generous, start being generous. And this may be true to your experience. You may have developed an exercise routine, and you may find that the more you get out of bed and do some exercise, the easier it is to get out of bed and do some exercise. And the less frequently you do it, the harder it is to do it. Aristotle says virtue works the same way. We become virtuous by practicing virtue, doing things over and over until they become almost second nature to us. Now, one complicating factor here is that we can become habituated to vice as well. We can develop bad habits. So Aristotle says every time we are selfish or greedy or violent, it becomes easier and easier to be selfish or greedy or violent the next time. Bad habits can be formed just as easily as good habits. Again, you might think about music lessons, or maybe coaching. Maybe you play a sport. And did your teacher or coach ever try to break your bad habits, to get you to do things a particular way so that those bad habits don't set in? Again, Aristotle says virtues of character work exactly the same way. Aristotle believes that we can educate people towards virtue. We can instill good habits in citizens and in young people. And for Aristotle, that is the goal of the laws. The laws should shape our character, and good laws do this well, and bad laws, unjust laws, do this badly. They instill in us a bad character. Now, this is a fascinating argument, one worth pausing over, because in the modern world, we sort of agree with this, and we sort of don't agree with this. On the one hand, we believe very strongly that people are shaped by their environments. Instead of the laws, we sometimes use this vague notion of society. We tend to think that something like society dictates what you believe, what you think, what kind of person you are, what you want, what you're able to do. When we make this argument, we're really agreeing with Aristotle. The laws of our regimes, our countries, shape the character of the citizens. So the laws might encourage particular behaviors, particular attitudes about religion or about money. The education system may instill particular values in people, like, say, tolerance or entrepreneurialism. Education systems might do a good job at doing that, or they might do a bad job at doing that. So we still believe, like Aristotle, that the laws can shape character. But those of us who live in freedom-loving democracies do not believe that the laws should tell us how to live. We don't like the idea that the laws should be designed to make us good people. We like to determine for ourselves what the good life is. And that means we want our laws to promote an account of freedom. We want it to make us free. We don't want the laws to habituate us towards some account of virtue. We get very angry about the idea that laws should tell us how to live. Now, Aristotle did spend a good chunk of his life in democratic Athens, and he probably did believe that freedom was good. But here's the thing. Laws aren't neutral. Laws will habituate you to a particular kind of life and a particular kind of character. There's no neutral education system, no neutral legal system that does not impose values on students or on citizens. We are shaped by our schools and by our states, whether we like it or not. So it's worth asking, how have you been habituated? What account of the good life do our schools and our cities and our countries uphold and advance? What kind of character does our education system, our legal system produce? What kinds of characters are they shaping and forming? And is that a kind of character, a kind of life that will make us happy? I think that'll do. Thanks, everybody.